Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here. This slide sums it up. This year, thousands of men will die from stubbornness. And somebody put graffiti on it. No, we won't. Kind of tells the story. That could have been me. I went in to save $250 on my health insurance. I ended up saving my life. 2014 was supposed to be the banner year for me and my wife. Both of us turning 50. Please don't tell her I told you how old she is. We were looking forward to celebrating 30 years of marriage. We got married when we were 12. To give you a backdrop, several years ago I was traveling back from visiting my daughter in college, wound up in the ER, failed the stress test miserably, and they ran a bunch of tests, said, we don't know what it is, IV, we cleaned you out, go home. A few months later, symptoms returned. Then the doctors ran a litany of tests, MRI, CAT scans, a number of tests to find out what was wrong. They tested for bladder cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, a host of really bad stuff. Couldn't find anything, so I'm sitting down with the doctor and he said, talk to me about your lifestyle. And that's where we kind of got into it. And I said, well, I told him, and he said, that's the issue. You need to change your lifestyle, your work lifestyle, your workaholism. Thank you, Dad. And I laughed. He didn't. He said, look, stress can mimic the very diseases we just tested for. You're healthy as a bear. We did $1 million workout. Wait, you got nothing going on. Change your workaholism. So I did. I'm healthy as a bear. I'm good to go. So, like a typical guy with a remarkable history of prostate cancer in my family, I'm the 10th person in my family to have prostate cancer. My mom had breast cancer, which makes me much more susceptible to it. And a few symptoms that I was exhibiting, I wasn't going in to see the doctor. Not happening. Until I wanted to save $250 on my health insurance. So I went in. They did the test. A few days later, the doctor calls. That generally doesn't occur. He said, it's probably not. But your PSA score is a little higher than I'd like it to be, so I'm going to refer you to a urologist. I said, okay. Did I go right away? No, I waited several months because I was too busy. I had meetings, I had stuff to do. I eventually made the appointment with the urologist, went in, and he said, you know, you're probably going to be just fine. But given the demographic group in which you're in, your family history, and your PSA score, which is only 4.3, let's go ahead and do the biopsy. The biggest risk is you could get a bacterial infection. No big deal. Okay, fine. So we did. Came back in for the results. Sitting down with my doctor and my wife, and he goes, yeah, so we did the results, and it looks like you've got adenocarcinoma, and that's the bad news. So in my mind, I'm going, adenocarcinoma, I got this licked. I didn't hear cancer. I didn't know that adenocarcinoma was the clinical term for cancer. So once he said, yeah, it's cancer, I can't tell you what happened after that, the discussion that occurred. I can tell you what happened in my head. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Then I came to the realization there's nothing new about that sentence. We're all going to die. Every single last one of us have an expiration date. We just don't know when it is. But it's something when the doctor pencils yours in and hands you the pencil and said, your move. So, surgery? Yeah, not a consideration. My dad had gone through this, I know what he had gone through, and let's face it, I'm a guy. We're not messing with that. Not happening. No. So I did my research on the internet, and we all know everything you read on the internet is true. I was moving to Colorado or Washington to deal with this. At least that was the plan. It was on one of the follow-up appointments with the doctor that the nurse looked me in my eye and they said, if you were my husband, I would make you have this surgery. Well, that follow-up appointment was for my 7th prescription for an antibiotic for the bacterial infection that I got from the biopsy, and one of those prescriptions was a 14-day IV. It was painful. I lost a lot of weight, which is good, not the way I want to lose it, which was bad. And then it dawned on me. If a bacterial infection in that little bitty prostate could make me this sick, what could cancer do? Came to my senses, it's got to go. Opted for surgery, which wasn't an easy decision. Given our wonderful economy that we're in, my wife and I work several hours apart. We get to see each other once a week. It was supposed to be for 6 months, it's been 7.5 years. It was not a decision that was made lightly. So I opted for the robotic surgery, where they go in and they make little incisions and they blow your stomach up and they take all kinds of pieces and parts out and make you walk that night, and it's not a good idea to have a 6-pack, okay, 24-pack. It hurts a little bit. Put a catheter in and kick you out of the hospital a day or so and make you come back in a few days to have it out. Okay, great. So you're carrying your catheter around in your little bag, and we're at the follow-up appointment. It's got to come out. Part of that procedure is they put 150 milliliters of water in your bladder, and they say, this is alone. We want it back before you leave. You got to make sure the plumbing's working. So give it back. I'm going to leave the room. You take your time, relax, do what you need to do, but I need that back. So walking around the room, it's not happening. I don't want to put the catheter back in, and have any of you ever been to Orlando? Twisty Treat, the best ice cream in the world. Oh. So my wife, bless her heart, says, honey, guess what? When we leave here, we get to go to Twisty Treat. Started flowing, all right? Just open up the floodgates. That worked. I recall it's a mindset going into surgery. When you have cancer, it messes with your mind. You think you're War of the Worlds. You got Pac-Man inside you. It's eating you up alive. And so it becomes a mental focus. And a couple of family members were kind of breaking down on the way up into surgery. And I said to them, I said, look, I'm the one headed upstairs about to be spayed and neutered. Lighten up. What's the big deal? But when you are diagnosed, and some of you can relate with cancer, you begin to look at the past. You begin to look at the future. You become completely overwhelmed with those thoughts. And it can be very paralyzing. Fear. And in that process, I had to learn that, you know what? Yesterday ended last night. All we ever have is now. This moment that we're in. The future happens in the now. So I learned to live in the now. And one of the things that I ran across in living in the now is, what if somebody, you woke up one morning, deposited $86,400 in your bank account, with the only caveat is you had that day and that day only to spend it. You couldn't spend one penny the next day. That happens to every one of us every day as it relates to time. We get 86,400 seconds to spend every day. How we choose to spend them is our choice. One of the things that I learned, experienced in this process that really stuck with me was the love and the care and the compassion that I received from the caregivers, to how they took my temperature and checked my blood pressure, to the family members holding my head and rubbing my head. That was therapy for me. And what I'm finding is I didn't want to talk about this at first. In my post-surgery pathology report, by the way, they told me in the biopsy that maybe less than 5% of your prostate and one side. The only way to know for sure is to take it out. They took it out, 15%, both sides, at the base, about to spread. And it was 3 times the size of a normal prostate, so that's about 75% of a normal prostate. I was this close to having it metastasized. I dodged a Scud missile, Matrix style. And so he said to me, you have favorable results. And it doesn't happen as often as it could because guys don't talk about their junk. So what I have found is it's therapy for me to talk about it. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life, and the first 50 went that way, but the next 50 is talking about what people don't want to talk about. Why? Because this year alone, 229 males will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 29,000 will die. So, in speaking, if one person can be impacted, one life can be saved, one quality of life can be spared, it's worth it. That's therapy for me. That's the giving back of the love and the compassion that I received. So I'll leave you with this. In my work life, I speak to individuals and I say, 3 simple philosophies I live by. Number 1, in what you do what you love. Number 2, if you're unable to do what you love, find something to love about what you do. And number 3, if you're unable to do 1 or 2, love yourself enough to make a change to do 1 or 2. I applaud each of you for your support in Relay for Life. I was involved with my daughters from a distance. It affects me. I'm all in. I'm glad and honored to be able to join forces with Relay for Life, to be able to create the awareness to make a difference in people's lives. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.